Hi there everyone. In this video I'm going to be speaking about a current event topic. This is the subject of the spiritual healer John of God, but in the context of spiritual leaders in general and what we could think of as cult psychology that sometimes surrounds them, as well as issues of sexual abuse of power. For those that don't know or haven't heard or read about it, currently in the news there's the story about John of God, the Brazilian spiritual healer, and he's been accused of sexual abuse or sexual assault actually by numerous women there. John of God has a spiritual healing center located in Abadiânia, Brazil, and John has denied these allegations. He's also surrendered to the Brazilian authorities who have charged him with sexual assault of more than one woman. So he's in some serious legal trouble there, and as a result of that, it's affected the center and really that whole town, which kind of has built itself up around spiritual tourism, since people from all over Brazil and all over the world come there to seek out those healing services. Now, I want to get into a few different aspects of this topic. First, John of God, whose actual name in Portuguese would be João de Deus, he's built this international fame due to impressive healings that are experienced by many people who've come to his center over the years. And he's been doing this for most of his life. He's in his mid-70s now, so for decades there, he's been facilitating healings. John of God is a full trance medium who allows spiritual entities to take control of his body and direct healing energies to those coming to see him, as well as at times performing actual physical surgical incisions as part of the spiritual treatment. Now, I have personally been acquainted with other spiritual healing practitioners who have spent time at John of God's Healing Center. A couple of them actually are people who have led groups, people traveling to Brazil. So these individuals are very much tuned in to that phenomenon there, to the healings that have been occurring there, strong believers in what John of God and his supporters have been doing. So to bring people there for travel, you would really have to trust that you're bringing them to something that's beneficial, something that's safe and positive. So from the experiences of these people I've been acquainted with, John of God has provided very powerful healing resources, and they didn't personally witness anything that would lead them to think that he's abusing people. So while I personally don't resonate with some aspects of how the center catered to the people coming there, and what I mean by that is that when you have large numbers of people coming looking for miracles, they often bring with them rather limiting beliefs. They often have kind of narrow religious views. So John of God and the entities working through him are often appealing to that level of consciousness, which from my perspective is kind of limited. And I also don't condone or support the physical types of surgeries or incisions that John of God is often doing, even though it's not actually him doing it in a sense, not his consciousness per se. It's these discarnate doctors working through him. I am quite certain that he is a real medium and has facilitated many real healing phenomena. So that's my perspective on that aspect of this, that what he's doing there as a spiritual healer is true healing work. There is real spiritual healing phenomena occurring, and he is an actual medium. So there's nothing fraudulent or fake about that aspect of what's going on with John of God. At the same time, I see these abilities, the spiritual healing potential, as capabilities that exist within all of us. So we all have the power to heal ourselves, to tap into that spiritual source. And it's not wise to give too much of our power or our devotion to some external person or entity that has given us aid in our healing process. Many people who are followers or devotees, we could say, of John of God, have kind of given too much of their power to him, thinking that he personally or these entities or that particular healing center are responsible for their healing, whether it's a psychological healing or physical healing. So they see it as this external source coming from there, as this miracle that's been given to them from John of God, rather than just seeing those resources as kind of a catalyst, giving an energetic input to awaken their own healing potential, to help them perhaps let go of some type of dense or dysfunctional energy that they'd been carrying and holding on to before encountering John of God. This type of power giveaway is actually quite common in the healing arts in general, and the spiritual field as well. So when people find something that in some way gives them healing or upliftment, they tend to start to idolize that or put that person on a pedestal. So they're seeing that source of healing is somehow above them in some ways, someone or something very special. It is nice to honor and appreciate those who give us some sort of healing support. And as someone in the healing arts, I can appreciate it when people give me positive feedback or accolades for the role that I've played. At the same time, I do not wish for them to be overly attached to me, to see themselves as in some way separate than me or less than me in relation to their connection to the divine. So this is something that we do want to be cautious of, to be self-aware when we're giving too much power, when we're putting someone or something on that type of a pedestal. If we look throughout history, both in modern times and in the past, we'll see that Christian priests and ministers, Jewish rabbis, Muslim imams, Buddhist monks, Hindu yogis, indigenous shaman, as well as pagan and New Age spiritual practitioners or spiritual leaders, have all been among those who've been exposed for sexual improprieties. It's not just one particular religion, faith, cult, or tradition. It's kind of a universal issue. There are often communities of followers and kind of a cult-type psychology at work where people are in denial about what's going on. They're only able or willing to see the light side, perhaps, and not the dark side of the particular teacher or spiritual group. Sometimes people will try even to justify the leader's sexual excesses or power-abusing manipulations. In the case of John of God, well, the truth or veracity of those allegations is something that will be examined and adjudicated through the legal process. This case certainly highlights this issue that has been widespread with spiritual teachers across all faiths and traditions. The issue involves abuse of power, often involving sexual abuse or exploitation. When a person works a lot with spiritual energy or metaphysical knowledge and psychic powers, and they have followers or devotees, there is often a shadow pattern that arises. If the person has not integrated their own personality and addressed any power issues or sexual issues that they've experienced in their past, anything that's unresolved within their own psyche. In John of God's case, so far the community of followers have mostly supported him and his denial of those allegations, even though it's actually not a secret that there are issues in his personal life that would raise concerns. John of God being someone who has been seen at many times out in public smoking and drinking and womanizing. So he has that type of personal background. So when he's not doing that mediumistic work, which he does spend a lot of his time doing, he spends time doing things that are not how one would expect to see a spiritual leader spending their time. When a person is a medium and they're allowing other entities to control their body while their ordinary personality dissociates, then there is a potential of allowing corrupt, low consciousness entities to come through. This is especially a risk when the medium himself or herself has corrupt aspects to his or her personality, such as sexual preoccupations or drug addictions, or strong fears or resentments and anger. So those things will tend to attract the types of entities that resonate with those issues. So the reality of a person who is sharing helpful spiritual talents or wisdom can coexist with the reality of that person being involved in exploitation or corruption. We do ourselves a disservice by denying either aspect and trying to define things as just black or white per se, just purely good or evil, purely positive or negative. As human beings, we're all some of both. Things are not as simple as some people would like them to be. If we wish to promote healing, balance, and wholeness, then we really need to look honestly at the issues, and that way this would help all of those involved so they can heal their shadows and distortions. I personally don't know the truth of what's occurred with John of God. It is my perspective that he is a genuine spiritual medium and spiritual healer, so he has played that role. But there are also some signs that suggest that those who are making accusations against him could very well be honest in what they are claiming. So I wouldn't be one to jump to conclusions either way. I believe that all of us have the power to connect to spiritual energy for the purpose of healing. There are many healing resources that we can access, but ultimately we are the ones shifting our own energy and our own consciousness. We're just using outside tools at times to help us in those processes of healing. We may use other healers, we may use crystals, we may use scents and colors and sounds. We may use particular herbs. So these are all different external implements that can assist us in our healing process or practice. And we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. We can recognize the value in various things, while we also don't want to become too attached to external things. We don't want to give them too much credit for our own healing. For example, one of the spiritual healers that I've been acquainted with who traveled to Brazil and brought people to see John of God, he provided a gift to me of a healing crystal from the center there in Brazil. Right here, this is the crystal. So this is a quartz crystal, and quartz crystals are often used in healing. Crystals can focus energy, they can receive or amplify energy. So when we're doing healing work, they could serve that purpose. However, that energy has to be received by the person receiving the healing. And what is a crystal actually? It's the minerals, right? So minerals exist within the earth and they combine to create particular geological forms, particular rocks or crystals. So quartz is one type of crystal, one type of compound that could be created by those particular chemical elements. Now, if we think about a human being, our own body actually contains all those elements. So in a sense, even at our physical level, we could access all the properties that might potentially be carried by the different crystals that we're working with. Since we're existing at another level of consciousness relative to the crystal kingdom, we actually have even more potential. As human beings, we can work with and process energy in an expanded way compared to just a particular stone or crystal. So whatever healing power this crystal has, each of us as a spiritual being using a human body has that much healing potential and much more. So if we have a strong belief that we've been healed by a crystal, it's important to realize that we actually have that power to heal ourselves. It didn't ultimately depend upon the crystal. I hope that this discussion has given each of us some things to think about, to process. The issues of abuse of power, misuse of sexuality. Those are very common in the spiritual field. Some of the most well-known spiritual gurus, per se, have had issues with that, with how they use power or abuse it, with how they express their sexuality or misuse it. So this is something to be mindful about, whether you're playing the role of a follower or a leader in any spiritual community, that we want to be more conscious and aware so that we don't fall into those imbalances, those distortions. For now, I'd like to wish each of you a wonderful day. For those that are interested in viewing more of my videos, you can look through my YouTube channel. You can also visit my website at phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com, where you'll find out more about my healing services and other resources. Once again, have a wonderful day. Namaste.